Good morning, everybody. It's Coach Judith here. Welcome to Makeup or Breakup. And good morning, Lou. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You're running around already this morning, huh?
I'm running around already. Gave my son an early Christmas gift, which is a new suitcase. Not to sound like an old person, but suitcases have increased in price like everything else. I mean, I was horrified by the cost of a suitcase.
Yeah. That's why God invented thrift stores.
Yeah. And also the sales at Macy's.
Yeah.
Just for those of you that might be thinking of getting suitcases, which is a nice but practical gift for your loved ones. You know, those things kind of need to be updated every now and then. Macy's, I know I should be getting paid by them, but Macy's is having a great sale. And for like, no joke, for like $70 to $75, you can get a 5 to 6 piece set. Now, you may not use the smaller pieces, right? But give them away or, give them to a charity, right? Because especially like homeless shelters, they're constantly being, they catch them in the shelter and then they release them and try to get them housing somewhere else.
Well, that belies my traveling philosophy, however, which is if you can't carry it on, you don't need it.
Right. Keep it simple, Simon, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Well,
and there are Walmarts everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And look at this. This is the little Christmas decoration there. Yeah. Little Dunkins.
Now I want Dunkins.
I don't know what it is about Dunkins, but I treated myself while I was delivering the suitcase to my son because there is just something about their coffee, and there's something about them making it in the larger, their larger machine. It doesn't taste the same at home.
It's part of our DNA. Dunkin' is just part of our DNA up here in New England.
Mm-hmm. I'm running on it. Well, in the past, I used to stop and get you tea and things, but I'm not really in person as much with you. But
one of the most traumatic experiences of my life was driving down to New York City, and I stopped in a Dunkin' Donuts in Connecticut, and the guys at the Dunkin' Donuts in Connecticut had New York Yankees caps on, and it was like seeing your girlfriend with another guy. It was horrible.
Yep,
you should be wearing Red Sox caps.
Didn't you sit there going, I feel like calling 911 because that just seems like an outright crime.
Yeah, right. You get to a certain point in Connecticut and it just flips over to Yankees hats.
Well, it's funny because my sister and my brother have settled into Connecticut. And I always say to them, with your kids, like, I'm not going to ask, I don't mind getting a baseball or, a new baseball bat or a basketball, but I am not getting any hats or t-shirts with their teams of choice. I can't do it.
Well, I always say there are 5.5 New England states. That's only half of Connecticut is with us.
That is too funny. Yeah. That is too funny. Yeah. Well, I think technically Connecticut's not New England. I mean, I think New England's Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island.
Yeah. You don't put Connecticut in there?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I can go with that. Although
my husband and I, we clumped them right in with the New Yorkers, followed by the New Jerseyers.
I think north of Hartford, though, they're with us in a war. That's all I know. But
yeah.
South of Hartford, forget it. We've lost
that little stretch on 89.
Yep.
Right. And so talking about suitcases and travel and Christmas gifts, today we're going to talk a little bit about the holidays. Home for the holidays. Not, that certainly brings up a lot of memories, good, bad, and indifferent, right?
A lot of stresses, yes.
Right. And unfortunately, it's the way of the world. I wouldn't really say that it's unique to America. I know people in other countries feel the same way, just depending on whatever the traditions are. And here today, because it's makeup or breakup, what we're really talking about is what do we do when the holidays are looming on the very, very not so distant future. And
this is a really interesting exercise in perspective, isn't it? Because I'm sure within same households, people are looking at the same thing, the Christmas holiday, and some of them are looking at it with joy and looking forward to it and getting psyched for it and very excited about it. And others are just dreading it. Just too much stress, too much money, too much family, too much going on. It's a really interesting exercise in perspectives.
Right. And, we talk about this all the time. When you come into a relationship, when you're dating and you get into a long-term relationship where you've met, somebody that you're going to continue dating with one-on-one, we talk about this. There are, there are things that are either showstoppers for the relationship, deal breakers,
Yeah.
excuse me, or there are things that are not that important that maybe are things that you would like to do. So, for example, we'll keep it in the viewpoint of holidays. There are things that you're perfectly willing to be fluid with, and other things that are really important to you.
Yeah.
The problem comes when the other person doesn't have that same attitude of gratitude. I'm thankful and grateful that you're in my life. However, the buck stops here when it comes to holidays. Like, I won't go to other people's houses. I won't go to big crowds. I
Yeah.
won't spend a lot of money. We all have the do's, and then we have the don'ts. And sometimes our do's and our don'ts don't match the other person that we're with. And if you think about it, Lou, looking back to when we were married, well, I am again, but in our past marriages, right?
Yep.
I remember distinctly thinking, each time I got married, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. I've got to figure out how to mingle holiday traditions and how to really compromise to a certain degree, right? So, for example, Ben's dad is from Vermont.
Yep.
And that worked really well, especially because we had a lake house that was in New Hampshire, but it was half an hour to their home in southern Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because I lucked out with wonderful in-laws. I mean, not everybody has that experience, but I had a really great experience with that. And I'm fortunate to have it again. But when it came to Christmas, when you've got a 1-year-old who wants to, get up at 6:30 in the morning, and then you're sort of obligated for that year to go to Vermont, that was a struggle, right?
Yeah.
And I had to sort of come to terms with that early on. I had to start to say to myself, I'm going to sort of go with that, but I'm going to manage it to a certain degree. So every other year we were in Vermont or we were in Massachusetts. Had they wanted to come to Massachusetts, that would be okay. But it was really more a matter of every other year I'm willing to travel. But it was big because, to be honest, with the hustle and bustle and as just life gets so tiring, Lou, the thought of traveling anytime around Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, like, was sometimes it was bad enough I had to travel half an hour eastward into Boston, toward the Boston area, to see my own family, who I loved and still do, of course. But these are the kinds of stresses that we have when we're in a relationship, and we try to manage them. We compromise, we do these different things, and we get this dance going. And then fast forward to the separation and divorce, which we're talking about right now. We're going to talk about people who are in difficult marriages. They have less incentive during a difficult time in their, a difficult season in their marriage. They're less likely to want to suck it up and go to Uncle Bob's on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
I mean, remember those? Like, I remember as I was winding down with my relationship, I'm like, oh my God, now I have to go with my in-laws who don't even know that we're going to get separated.
Yeah.
And I got to go to Vermont and act fake because, justifiably fine. I don't really care. I didn't think it was what I would do with my family, but he didn't want to tell his family till the spring.
Right.
And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But, that's pretty stressful, kind of faking it through the holidays when a breakup is pending. Right.
Yeah.
Or you broke up 2 months ago, or even 5 years ago, and the holidays are bringing back all these memories of, remember when we had our cute little apartment and we would go pick a tree.
Yeah.
And now, like, we're not in that apartment probably. And I don't want to go get a tree by myself and chop it down.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, did you have some of that?
Yeah, but for the most part, I buried it in the kids. In other words, it was a situation for me where the kids come first and what their experience is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And my family was smaller. It was just my sister and her daughter and her daughter's daughter. That's basically the size of my family. But my ex-wife's family was huge, 6 siblings and things like that. And it was important for the kids to be in those family settings with those people who I liked, by the way. It wasn't a problem. And so it was kind of easy to just say, okay, this is for the kids, and try to do it that way. It's a few hours on one day a year where, I can suck it up and do it, and,
Right.
try to make a good experience for them. And, I
Right.
don't know if that's the best way to handle it, but to me, I just turned all my attention towards the kids and their experience,
Mhm.
what I thought they should have. And it was around these holidays, we never fought about these holidays because I wanted the kids to be with their family, with their cousins. They had a lot of cousins their age and things like that,
Mm.
because that's the experience they should have
Right.
rather than being in my apartment on Christmas. Yeah, go see your cousins, have fun.
Right. So that would be a mature, healthy view on how to let the kids experience their Christmas, even though it affects you not seeing your kids.
Yeah.
The majority of people don't feel that way. The majority of people feel like it's a great loss. And even if they don't have the same house and they don't have the same space and they don't have the same amount of money to buy all the gifts that go under the trees, it can be a very isolating, lonely feeling knowing that they're having a blast with your ex's family and you're sitting there. Sometimes you're, especially depending on where you are in your process, you're not comfortable yet with being alone. And so the feeling is loneliness as opposed to just accepting being alone.
Well, for me, very early in this, it was terrifying because I had not yet put the moorings down on my relationship with the kids. You didn't know what the future was going to bring with them, whether you're going to be able to stay in touch with them enough, and there are all kinds of
Mhm.
varieties of outcomes with divorces and things like that. And I wanted to make sure I had a good relationship with the kids. So yeah, it was terrifying at the time, and
Mhm.
you know, I understand those kind of problems,
Mhm.
but I also didn't see the contribution of pulling them away from a big family Christmas with their grandparents, and their grandparents
Mhm.
on my side weren't around, with the grandparents and their cousins and their aunts and uncles, and pulling them to the place I was staying. I don't know,
Mhm.
that didn't seem to make much sense to me either. And so what you do, I think one of the things you can do is try to make your own experience. In other words,
Yep.
do Christmas Eve or do the day after Christmas, and give them a special time that's not taking away from their experience, but creating a new tradition, that type of thing. Try to find something a little unique,
Right.
go skating or something like that, that can become a Christmas tradition for you guys.
Absolutely. And sometimes that means saying, you know what? Let's one of the things is also to figure out a way sometimes if it's not about like some really great family experience that you really don't want them to miss. Maybe the more traditional thing is
Yeah.
you switch years, and what happens is people feel like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that because I can't imagine not seeing my kids on Christmas Day." But the problem is, kids actually end up getting excited about the fact, Lou, that they have 2 Christmas days.
Yeah.
It's all about you and me. It's our internal selfish feelings, which are natural because we're human,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But I say to people, I say, I see this with my clients all the time. And when they talk about this, I say to them, look, I get it. I understand it. I've had those Christmas days. But honestly, you have to take a hard look at this. And it is a little bit of like a truthful moment. Christmas, for the most part, is all about getting together with friends or family or kids or no kids, right? There's these people that we usually get together with, right?
Right.
Um, there are some people that gave up on the holidays and they don't do anything with the holidays. That's fine if that's just not their thing, right? But when it comes to the kids part of it, um, I think it's important for people. That's why I say, look, if you're working with me, you're going to be much more adjusted by the time that first holiday hits
Yeah.
because I've already started working on this with you, right? And unlike a therapist, I give very hands-on practical tips. I call my clients out on the carpet when they're not doing what they should be doing. If they're not keeping up with their homework, I'm like, look, working with me is like working with a math teacher. If you don't do your homework, you're never going to really be good at that algebra, right?
Yep.
So there's a reason why your algebra teacher would give you homework, as annoying as it was, so that you keep up with it. And the whole point is, I love this analogy with like a math class, right? It's completely different than geography because it doesn't fit. But with math, with anything, whether it's geometry or algebra, what you're doing is building on so the weeks before. And when you're in high school, in September, for example, and you're taking algebra, September gives you some of the foundations and you start experimenting. October and November builds on September. So that's why if you joined an algebra or geometry class in November,
Yeah.
you would have a very hard time catching up because it gets harder and harder and builds on things as it goes along. It's the same thing with healing and dealing. Ooh, good. There's a new one for me. Healing and dealing with the pain of the separation. I was going to get a piece of paper and rip it. It is like you've ripped a piece of paper.
Yep.
You used to be a piece of paper, the two of you, and now we rip it, and there's your ex and there's you. And your ex is going to go off and do their thing. They're going to figure out what makes them happy. How can they adjust? What can they do for the holidays? You only forget this guy or woman. This is you. This is all we really care about. And this is the key to my whole Surviving the Holidays seminar and teaching with my clients, which is if you're over 18 and you've gone through a huge separation and divorce, which I wouldn't be doing this with 12-year-olds, right? If they broke up with their first childhood sweetheart. I'm talking about adult relationships where you lived together and you did life together with you, whether you were married or you were, committed to that one-on-one relationship. When we sever, it's really important to stop and take the time to heal, but also to put a plan in place. So you can't just take the time to cry and to grieve and to process all the anger. You have to be simultaneously creating healing points, because I can't wait until the crying is over with a client, right? I can't wait until the anger is over, because that could take a year. It could take 3 years to get over the anger and the issues of things that maybe have been done, right? But what we can do is say to ourselves, Coach Judith says, healing is a choice. And in order to make that, you have to say, it's like a serenity prayer almost. It's like, I give, an open heart and an open mind to ideas and proven ways to start to heal, right? So by the time a holiday comes, even if somebody breaks up with someone this week, Lou, I can help them process so quickly, deal with the holidays. And part of that is recognizing the fact that isolation is a bad thing. There are times when we're going to say no to a party or no to Uncle Bob's because Uncle Bob's a drunk and Uncle Bob's going to ask us all about our ex-spouse, right? That's okay, but you never want to fully isolate. And that's why, before we get too far into it, because I don't want to forget, this is the booklet for the program that I'm running on Thursday night. So today's Tuesday for all of you that haven't looked at your calendar yet. This is Thursday night. It's actually the fourth workshop that I've been running during the holidays, before Thanksgiving and now, because each one filled up. So I can't take any more people for tomorrow night, which is Wednesday. So I created a new one. I'm already up to like 8 people.
Nice.
Yep. So this is the ticket. You need and I don't usually give directives to people, but everyone should be sharing this podcast, because there are people out there on your Facebook page who are your friends, Lou, that we don't really know, right? They're organizations. They're people that work for companies that somehow we're associated with, right? Like for you, it could be the radio station. This podcast is talking about the holidays, and specifically, I'm inviting people to sign up for my Surviving the Holidays workshop. I'm going to call it a workshop. And what makes it special is it's men and women who are separated. So they are processing out of a relationship, whether they were married or not. They could be going through a divorce if they were married, or they're post-breakup. So Lou, you and I have we've talked about this. We sometimes know people who are 10 or 20 years out of a major breakup, out of a marriage, and there are triggers for them for whatever reason, and they still get very sad and lonely around the holidays. This will help them 100%. And what makes it so interesting, and what the secret in the sauce is, this is not a kumbaya, sit around in a circle. This is a Zoom call. So people can join this from any state in the United States. They can come in from Canada. We have a woman in Canada. If they speak English, they can be in Ireland. They can be in France. They can be in Norway. I don't care.
Yep.
Last year, my Surviving the Holidays, we had a couple of women from Ireland. So it was very late for them because I start at 7 p.m. and they're 6 hours ahead, right? Um, and I ran a seminar 2 weeks ago on Suddenly Single for people who had just experienced a breakup. And one of the women in there is living in England for the year. She's American, but she's in England. So she was up at 1 or 2 in the morning to be part of that seminar. You do a disservice if you don't share this information with people because you may not need it, but someone that you know out there does, and they don't know about this workshop slash seminar. And
That's we started the show talking about perspective.
yep.
And I think you just mentioned what I think is a really important perspective to gain early on in
Mhm.
these separations is that you have to decide what your next 20 years are going to be like,
Right.
especially if you're separated with kids. I mean, your kids, you're going to continue to raise your kids together. Your kids are going to have kids. There's going to be weddings. There's going to be grandchildren. There's going to be things like that. And you have to decide whether you want a war that entire time, whether you want to be uncomfortable not being seated next to your ex or not being invited over the house at the same time to see the grandkids and things like that. That's a perspective that I think you have to gain because it changes your approach. I think hopefully as early as possible so that less
Mhm.
damage is done. I remember that being a big part of my thinking with my divorce. It's like, I have these kids. I don't want to be able to not be in the same room with my ex-wife. I don't want to be, I don't want them worried about, oh, mom's coming over. I can't have dad over then. When am I going to have
Mhm.
him over? I didn't
Mhm.
want any of that. Neither of us wanted any of that. So, you got to decide what kind of life you want with this going forward. And once you decide that's not what I want, you get a little bit more charitable, you get a little bit more cooperative, you put down the swords a little bit earlier and, just move forward. I think that's a
Right.
huge perspective to gain as early as possible.
Right. Exactly. And so this seminar addresses these things, but more importantly, it gives people hands on suggestions and tips by professionals in a video. The video is like 30, 35 minutes. And that's what we use for our discussion afterward.
Mhm.
So it's not kind of like everybody sits there and like, male bashes or, women stink, none of that.
Yeah.
This is just, everybody introduces themselves. I always tell people one sentence, and you can use some dangling participles if you want to make it a longer sentence, but it's one sentence
Yep.
that tells us your name, where you live, if you have children, what are their ages, and what's your marital status. So are you separated? Are you separated living in your own apartment and also going through a divorce, or what status are you in? And I know this is sort of on the fly, but I was wondering if I could screen share to show some of the video clip.
Oh, interesting. Do you have the clip up?
Um, I'm I'm putting up
We're going to
the.
try this live. This is great.
Yep, that's what I wanted to do because I figured you'd say only Judith.
Well, we can give it a shot, see what happens.
Yeah. So put it this way, I do this all the time
Mhm.
in yeah, but now I can't get you back on.
You
I
have it up
can't
in a window?
Yep. Now I can't see you. So I messed up. Oh, StreamYard, that's the one. Okay.
Yep.
So I screen share all the time because with my divorce support group that I run on Monday nights, another plug, um, that I screen share these videos. So this has a video, and I could play a couple of minutes so that
Okay.
people get a feel for like what's this video that Judith's talking about, and what the heck is this support group? So this is a one night Thursday night, starts at 7 p.m. East Coast time.
Okay. Down the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a share button.
I see it.
Hit on that, and
Share screen.
you can share screen. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then what'll happen is at that next screen down at the bottom,
Yep.
there's a box that says share system audio.
Nope. It just says share.
At the bottom, is not a little box in the lower left.
No, I don't have a lower box on the left. But what I'm wondering is, what I'm seeing is us. So let me just see something.
Did you hit share screen?
I did.
Okay. And a
I
box
did that.
that said entire screen, window, Chrome tab, anything like that?
I just hit share, but nothing just came up.
Oh, because you didn't select anything. Probably.
Share screen. Okay.
Go back to the beginning. Share
Okay.
screen.
Okay.
In the next window, down the lower left, it should say share system audio.
Let's see if this works, because I feel like it's only showing us.
Oh.
See what I'm saying? Like it just showed us again. So when I do that, I'm trying to get to the, yeah, I'm going to open up. I think what I need to do is, can I move that box? I'm trying to open up divorce care. So I have two tabs. One is my StreamYard, because what happens is what I'm seeing, let me see if it says window. It's only showing us. That's the problem.
Down the bottom, if you hit that share button, there's a little screen that says share with a plus.
No, it just says share. There's no plus.
Well,
it's not allowing me to go into my. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You want me to go back to the, here I am. I'm in the main room.
Yep.
Yep.
Down underneath, there's a bunch of buttons. One says share.
Okay.
Click on that.
Yep. So that's the one I've been doing.
And it just says share screen down the bottom.
I clicked on it.
And another box should come up.
So I click on that. And then I hit screen share again.
No, well, you got to wait.
I'm getting screen sharing tips. So I'm going beyond that and hitting the bar that says share screen. I don't need any tips. Right?
Okay. Yep. And then there should be a window there that says entire screen, window or Chrome tab up the top.
That's what I have. But the problem is the only thing that's open on Google Chrome is us. So the other tab is the divorce care website. That's my second tab that I have opened. But if I click on it, then this box disappears. So it's different than Zoom.
Yeah. So when you go to Chrome tab, there's not a listing of several tabs open.
Oh, yep, it is. Okay, yep. I see what it was. Do you see this?
Yes. But down the bottom, do you have share tab audio pressed? Otherwise, there'll be no audio.
I don't have that at the moment.
Okay.
Maybe if I make it bigger. I don't, but let me know, because I can't see you. I can only see this now.
Well, go back to, well, okay. Yeah.
No. So can you see this?
If you haven't got the audio pressed, though, then there's not going to be any audio.
Where do I get audio? It's not at the bottom of my screen. I can. Where's audio?
Okay, hit stop sharing for now, and let's go through the cycle again.
Okay.
Hit share again and share screen.
Share screen.
Go to Chrome tab.
Share screen again. Hold on. Chrome tab. Yep.
Down the bottom, there's a little checkbox. Bottom left should say share tab audio.
Yep, it's checked.
All right, great. Now select the tab that you want to show.
Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
All right, you see this?
Yep.
All right, because I can't see you anymore, which is fine. Let me just play this and then we'll stop.
Well, if you go back to StreamYard, you'll see both. You'll see everything now.
Yeah.
And then you can start the video.
All right. Well, let me start the video because
let's see what happens.
Let's do it, everybody. So this is a preview to the video for Thursday night.
That first Thanksgiving was especially difficult.
Christmas Day, after we opened presents, me and my family, I was depressed.
It was just my daughter and I felt guilty because I thought, this is Christmas time. I need to be spending this with my child. I was working.
First holiday was tough on personally myself because that was the first Christmas I didn't actually wake up with my children.
The holidays really kind of snuck up on me, and I was still in a daze and fog from my separation and divorce. So it was just, I don't know, it's just this horrible time for me. That first year was really, really rough.
I was alone, and it was just, the holidays were lonely and sad.
I didn't want to decorate. It wasn't in me, but I had to for my kids. So I just felt alone. I was just alone in it.
You'd see couples walking around, shopping together, doing things. And I would look at them and wonder, what do they have that I don't have? Like, what redeeming quality is in them that's not in me? How come her husband can see that in her, whereas my husband can't see that in me?
If you can relate to these stories, I hope you can see that you are not alone and that you are in the right place to find help. Hi, I'm Steve Grissom.
And I'm Denise Hildreth Jones.
Denise and I know what it's like to dread the looming holiday season and avoid festivities that we once looked forward to. Both of us have experienced the pain of divorce.
Separation and divorce come with unspeakable pain. And as Thanksgiving and Christmas grow closer, that pain will likely be amplified as many of your holiday traditions are upended.
You may not have the energy or desire to decorate for Christmas. Your finances may be strained. Your children might be wondering why they won't see their dad on Christmas Day or why there aren't any gifts under the tree this year.
And if you convince yourself to attend a holiday party, it may be hard to enjoy yourself. In fact, after the third person asks you how your family is doing, you might even be ready to call it a night.
And as you can imagine, there's a long list of unhealthy ways you can numb your pain.
Today, we want to talk you through these holiday challenges. You'll hear from experts who have experience helping others who are separated or divorced. And you'll meet people like you who've learned some of the secrets of not only surviving, but even thriving during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday season.
We're glad you joined us today. Welcome to Surviving the Holidays. If this is the first holiday season since your separation or divorce, you might be surprised at how deeply you're dreading this time of year. But even if it's been 2 or 3 years since the breakup of your marriage, you may find that even now, you'd still prefer to skip the holidays.
It is normal because grief doesn't have sort of a statute of limitations. There's no timetable for grief.
The first time I still can't believe it. The second time it's a reality. It's there. I am forced to face my situation.
It's better to accept that there will be enjoyable moments and difficult moments. Maybe in the second or third year, the financial situation has changed and become more difficult. Maybe there is an issue with the children and how they're responding to the divorce. Maybe in that second or third year, my ex-spouse has begun dating seriously or gotten engaged or perhaps even remarried.
So we're caught off guard and we're surprised and we go, oh, what do I do with that now?
There are many family gatherings and parties woven through the holiday season. You may feel like avoiding them, either because you don't have the energy or because you want to avoid uncomfortable questions from family, friends, or coworkers.
Sometimes you're not ready to get out and go to parties and be single again. I wasn't. I was so fearful of, I don't want to get back in that hurt again. I don't want to hurt like that again.
I did not go to any holiday parties or gatherings, mostly because when you're invited to something like that, it's as a couple. And I loved going to parties and events with my husband. It's not so fun when you're single.
I actually was pulling away and maybe had just thought, well, I don't need to be around anybody right now. But a friend of mine, he and his new wife had really encouraged me to come to their house for, Christmas lunch and went down there. We ate and talked, and that right there, it made a great memory, and it was an absolute blessing.
There are going to be office Christmas parties. There are going to be Sunday school class parties or other kind of social gathering parties that you probably were a part of and attended previously as a couple. If you don't feel like going to that, I think it's really okay.
Holiday parties to me was a little intimidating, with a lot of different people maybe who would ask me, where's your husband? What's happening with your husband?
I think you just have to gauge where you are in the grieving process and if you're able to handle that. You really have to decide internally, am I not going to a party because I'm trying to get a time away and quiet myself and really reflect on what's going on? Or am I doing that because I'm avoiding and I'm afraid that I'll lose control when I go into a crowd? Doesn't mean that you still have to go. It's just really important to understand the motivation behind that, because the last thing you want to do during the holidays is isolate. That is one of the key predictors of people getting depressed.
I think you have to decide, are these people in my life enough that it doesn't drain me to go? So if they're good people in your life and they know what you've been through and they love you and you feel safe with them and you can relax in their presence, then I think allow yourself to receive their company and their gift of hospitality and all of that. If it's going to drain you dry because they're going to pummel you with questions about what happened and you're not feeling safe and you're feeling a little threatened by, what might come up or who else is going to be there, who might else ask you, it's okay to say no.
You get dressed up and you drive yourself and you're sitting at the table by yourself. And even though you're surrounded by people that love you and care for you, I wasn't ready to put on a dress and sparkly earrings. No holiday parties this year. Maybe next year.
You will likely also get invited to holiday gatherings with your immediate family. How should you handle those invitations?
Depending on the kind of relationship you have with your family can affect how are you going to handle it.
If it's your core family, I'm not talking about in-laws, but your core immediate family who love you, understand you, support you, know what you're going through. I'd be hesitant to reject that invitation. Get it that you likely participated in that holiday event with the family, with your ex-spouse as a couple, but your family has known you before you were a couple. They're going to know and love you after you were a couple. They love you and want to be with you because it's you.
But if your family is the kind of family that gives you the love you need, it still might be very difficult and exhausting. If you have somebody in your family that understands how brokenhearted you are right now, if they're willing to talk ahead of time to the people and say, she doesn't want you, or he doesn't want you to talk about his ex, or the situation that led up to the divorce. Can you avoid talking about that situation? That can be helpful.
But even in that more intimate family situation, folks had no idea what was going on. That first Thanksgiving was interesting because I really remember somebody like, so where is Kentrell? And that just took me into a bad place. And then the rest of the meal was not a happy time because then I'm focused on, well, dag, things have changed. This is a yucky, really yucky feeling of where I am.
You might want to say ahead of time, I'm going to come for the meal, but I'm not going to stay all day like I usually do.
And let's see, how do I stop screen share?
There you go. You can do that.
All right.
Through it.
Yep. So that is the secret to the sauce. I hope everybody enjoyed that, but now you get a feel for what are these videos that I talk about with the divorce care program? This one is about the holidays, but on Monday nights, it's different videos about anger, sadness. I'll be starting that one back up. The 13-week program, that's the regular divorce care, will be starting up in January, mid-January again. And I think I might show some video clips of that. because I want to promote that and show people. It doesn't have to be as long as that one, but I want to show people what makes this program, this support group, quote unquote, different than what people picture a support group being like. This is a support group as much as it is a class, because they're teaching us things to do, things not to do, how to protect our hearts, how to be more open-minded about things. So what did you think? Did it give you a flavor for like where this goes as far as
Well, I think it gives
survival?
Yeah,
right?
it definitely gives you a flavor, but I think one of the more important aspects of that is that it's going to get everybody in the room on the same page in terms of these are not just feelings I'm feeling, these are pretty universal feelings, and they're normal. There is nothing wrong with you for having these issues, and it's okay to address them in a way that's safe for you. Like, for example, it came up in the video, maybe not the holidays this year, maybe next year. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people can't get past, well, that's just silly. I can't do that. I can't put that on my family. I can't, that's just too selfish. It's not. Everybody shares these feelings and everybody has these feelings. And the better you deal with them, and again, you get that perspective is, I don't want to deal with this for a long time. It's okay. I'm dealing with this now, but I'm going to get through it and that type of thing. You have to decide how long this experience is going to last for you.
Right. And one of the tips that they were about to get into is having either yourself or someone that you really like in your family or friend group speak to the hostess or the host and say, look, spread the word, please. Do not be bringing up Bob or Jane when Judith is here, right?
Yeah.
Or when Lou comes, he's really not comfortable with people asking him, so what's going on? Or, hey, did I hear that she like dumped you on a Sunday night when you were about to like, sit down and watch a movie? Like, is that true?
Yeah.
Because when you go to these gatherings, Lou, you're often seeing relatives or friends that you haven't seen for several weeks or months.
Right.
Right. I mean, especially with like family ones, there's the aunts and uncles that fly in from Chicago that we're not seeing all the time.
Right.
So they're really going to want to know what's going on because they heard through the grapevine that you're separated.
Yeah.
And so telling somebody ahead of time to be the one to tell the others ahead of time, please don't talk about this with her or with Lou when they show up.
Yeah. And I think it's important to have a confidant, that person in the group that knows that and that is willing to listen to you, and you can talk about it a little bit with them if you like. And
Right.
you can have prepared answers and be prepared for all this, but by the same token, your aunt who you haven't seen in half a year coming in from Chicago shouldn't be asking these questions, right? It's not the proper venue for it. It's not the proper time to have that conversation.
Lou, you and I know that, but
Yeah.
people can't help themselves. Like,
I
I arrive at the same time as you and we're in the kids' room putting our coats on the bed. The first thing I'm going to do is go, hey, Lou, I'm really sorry to hear about Jane. Like, what the heck? What happened?
Yeah.
And depending on where you are in your headspace, you may or may not want to answer that.
Right. Right. But don't ask the question. Offer a little support and just, yeah. Hey,
Right.
Sorry to hear what happened. Let's go have some fun. Let's,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
set it down for a night.
Right. And the other thing that we've talked about a lot, which is
Although
really,
people don't want advice in that situation either. So even
Yeah.
that's a little tricky.
yeah, I think the problem is until I took divorce care and surviving the holidays, I didn't have that tip. So I didn't even know this one. To me, one of the best tips is this tip, which is talk to one person ahead of time.
Yeah.
And make them your wingman and say, look, I need you to sit next to me because Uncle Bob, he drinks too much and he's going to say something right at dinner time. I need you to shut him down.
Yeah.
Or can you please tell the others that are going to be there so I don't have to call everybody and say, don't bring it up.
Yep.
Be that friend or relative that takes the time for me and just says, look, here's an email to the 6 or 7 relatives, right?
Yeah.
Please don't bring up Jane, Lou's in a bad place. Leave it for another time. If you want to ask him questions, reach out to him now, but not at dinner, because we just want him to have a couple of hours of respite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because people feel awkward about not acknowledging it at all, but they awkwardly address it. But, no one wants to just ignore it, or they don't feel like they should just ignore it. But it's just so difficult in that time period. And yeah, that's a great idea to put everybody, look, everything's okay. You don't have to acknowledge it. Just,
Right.
we're just getting together for a party.
Yep, exactly. The other tip that they give that's fantastic that I never thought about until I took this was do not take a ride with somebody else. If you're feeling vulnerable, drive yourself, because you want to be able to leave the party or the dinner when you feel like you need to. If it gets to be too much and you sit there going, oh no, I wish I hadn't said yes to this dinner party.
Right.
You need to be able to gracefully leave, and have your own wheels or Uber so you can get out of there.
Yep.
And so, it is natural if somebody lives east of us for them to say, hey, I'm going to be going right past your house. Why don't I pick you up? We can go together.
Yep.
Just say, you know what? I really appreciate the offer, but I'm taking myself because I don't know how long I can last. I mean,
Yeah.
that's perfectly legit.
I want to be able to leave on my schedule. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important in that case as well. If you're feeling very emotional and it's still a hard time for you, again, talk to someone who's going to be there and just say, please have my back. There's a pretty good chance I won't make it to dinner. I won't make it after dinner. I don't know. I'm feeling really emotional. And if nothing else, if possible, call or text or whatever the person who's running it. So if Uncle Bob and Auntie Betty are having everybody over, maybe you reach out to, Auntie Betty and say,
Yep.
Betty, this is a really hard time for me. I love your pudding. I may not stay for dessert. I'm asking you to understand that if I start to feel bad, I
Yep.
don't want to sit there and cry in front of everybody. I'm going to need to leave.
Yeah. Say all your apologies in advance. Yeah.
So you're setting up what we talk about, have a plan.
Yeah.
Because how many times do people, even when we're not in a breakup, I mean, how many times I've had this happen to me recently. How many times do I say yes to something and then I get there or the people come here and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
why did I
Every
do
time.
that?
Yeah. Every time is the answer to that question. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we do that every day, right? Or we say yes to another meeting and then halfway through the meeting, it's not what we thought and it's boring and we're not getting anything out of it. We just took an hour that we didn't have. We go, oh, why did I tell her I would go to this meeting? Right. Yeah.
People get overwhelmed when they don't feel they have control. So setting up your control beforehand is a great firewall for you.
Lou, these are such great tips. These are the things that I learned in divorce care that I didn't know back in 2008, 2009, when I was going through my second divorce. Yay me. So here's some tips and tricks on boundaries that I wrote down to talk about quickly. And then we have to wrap up because I have a 12:15 client to call.
I see.
Who actually is struggling with the holidays. Okay. So it's important to create boundaries ahead of time, not the day of the dinner with your family members, right? Because this is tough to do. So the first one is identify the symptom. Look at your own life situation and see where boundary problems exist with your parents and your siblings. The basic question is this: where have you lost control of your property? So your property is basically what you allow and don't allow for people to comment on here in your space, right?
Yep.
The second one is identify the conflict. Discover what dynamic is playing out. Do you take responsibility for a sibling or a parent instead of being responsible to them? So there's a difference there. So this is like more talking about how to deal with difficult family situations, right? In general. Number 3, identify the need that drives the conflict. You do not act in inappropriate ways for no reason. You are often trying to meet some underlying need that your family of origin did not meet. Number 4, practice boundary skills. Practice them in situations before you get to your family where they will be honored and respected. Begin saying no to people who will love and respect your boundaries. So a lot of times, like we just talked about, people don't say no to the dinner party. They don't say no to the New Year's Eve party because they just feel like, oh, Uncle Bob's and Uncle and Aunt Betty, no one says no to it, right? Well, never say never. No is an acceptable emotion. It's just in how you deliver it and being confident about it, and then not saying to yourself ahead of time, you're not going to move off the plate, right? You're going to stay on home plate. You're not going to move to first base, which is, I'll think about it. If you already know no is no and you don't want to go to the party, then you just say, you know what? I really appreciate the invitation. It's just not going to work this year. I'm just not in the right space. And then Betty says, come on, get over yourself, to say, I know, I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to do it this year. And then you might have to say to them, you know what? I think I need to go now because it feels to me like you're not going to take no for an answer. And I'm sticking to no. And then you just politely say, I'm going to have to hang up. So you don't just hang up on them, but you give them a warning, Lou, right?
Yep.
The fifth one is say no to the bad. That's a good one. In addition to practicing new skills in safe situations, avoid hurtful situations. When you are in the beginning stages of setting boundaries, you need to avoid people who have controlled you in the past.
Yeah.
So if you already know that, Auntie Betty is going to just control everything and this and that, and it's going to just be a nightmare for you, that's where you need to start practicing.
Here's an important thing that I don't think we pay enough attention to is that in your relationships, people have different sensibilities in regard to conflict.
Right.
Some people are very aggressive. Some people are very passive. Some people invite conflict. Some people disdain conflict. And when you get into a person that doesn't fit your perspective on conflict, for example, for me, I'm very conflict averse. So people who are aggressive about it, who don't mind conflict, who will go hard, are people that I have to be careful around, and people that I'm very protective with myself about. I'm at least aware of it so that I don't get myself in situations where I'm going to run into conflict, because I recognize that they'll go from 0 to 10 in a couple sentences. And
right.
Well, I'm not ready to go that far on this issue at all, but I know who they are. So I treat it accordingly. So there are people in your family who are very aggressive towards you. And I don't, I keep aggressive in context.
Right.
But in terms of there is an aunt who will go after your marriage, and that's aggressive. That's looking for conflict. That's trying to dig into it and trying to get involved. There are people with that personality type. Be aware of them and have a plan to deal with them.
Right. Because the bottom line is, Lou, they're not going to change. You're the one that has to change.
That's
These
exactly
people
right.
won't. The person
It's
that
not
bullies you-
them, it's your reaction to them that you have to be aware of, because your reaction to them just feeds them in many cases. So you have to be aware of that.
Right. And the other thing is, like, if you're the one that always brings dessert, this might be the year that you don't make it. Go buy a pie. Don't be a hero. It doesn't matter. If they're like, oh, I hope you're going to bring the peppermint bars, too bad.
Yeah.
Just show up with the pumpkin pie and something else, some brownies from Market Basket or Stop and Shop, and be done with it. Don't be bullied into doing that, Lou, because like sometimes cooking is just too much work.
No, either way is fine. It's got to be your choice, however. And you're exactly right. Don't be bullied into it. Sometimes doing your special dessert for family, doing something out of love can be a good distraction for you for a while. But if it's not working that way for you, that's okay. Whatever you choose to do is okay, but make sure it's your choice. Don't be bullied into doing it. And, and don't avoid it. Don't be told to avoid it. Make your choice.
Right. Exactly. So the next one you're going to love. This is like a Lou thing. Number 6, respond, don't react.
Yeah.
When you react to something that someone says or does, you may have a problem with boundaries.
Yep.
If someone is able to cause havoc by doing or saying something to you, they are in control of you and your boundaries are lost.
Yes.
When you respond, you need to remain in control. And what that usually means is repeating the same simple statement. I'm sorry, but I just don't have time to bake the pie this year.
Yep.
And then you say, come on, Jude, everybody loves it. It's tradition. I'm sorry, I just don't have time to bake the pie today.
Yep.
Right. And then you're like, come on, it doesn't take that long. And besides, that Janie and Billy love it. Then I have to say it again. Look, I'm not going to say it one more time. I'm telling you right now, I do not have the time. I just can't do it this year.
That first response of, come on, everybody loves it, will you do it, is an attempt to manipulate you. Recognize it as such and respond as such.
Right. There's the control. And the reality is, and in the past, I used to really love that. I used to love bringing my special pie. And I really would like to make it next year, probably. But right now, you're in a mess. Don't be signing up for stuff. Like I had a client last year, Lou, who always brought the mashed potatoes, her pecan pie, and cookies for the kids.
Yep.
Last year was not the year for her to be sitting there slaving over mashed potatoes. Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever made mashed potatoes, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
It's a lot of steps. Don't do it. if you're ready to take the next step in your boundaries journey, well, start practicing now, but call Judith Jamison, Coach Judith. This is something that I do with all my clients, no matter what they're doing. Even if they're dating, with my date coaching, I teach them, these are the boundaries in dating. These are the things that you're not going to go along with. These are the things that you go along with. So boundaries is a key thing, and I'm really good at it. My clients, they do this, never looked at it that way. I'm like,
is there a more common need than establishing boundaries? I think everybody needs work on that. And it doesn't have to be a bad relationship or a strained relationship or a family relationship. In life, getting comfortable and setting up your boundaries and sticking to them is just a good life lesson. It's going to do well for you in all aspects of your life.
100%.
Yep.
So we're going to wrap up, but this Surviving the Holidays is my Thursday night webinar. It's 7 to 9 p.m. East Coast time. Please take this and share it. I'll be sharing it later on my Facebook page, my other Facebook page.
Yep. Share
it, and put a comment at top. And at the top, struggling with the holidays, call Coach Judith and put my phone number in there. 781-249-1770. People can text me. They can call me. I'll listen to the voicemail if I'm doing something like this. Like I just had a call. I'll listen to the voicemail afterward. I'm here for people. The support group is my give back. There is no cost. This is $5. If someone can't afford the $5, I'll waive the fee and I'll get this to you. So even if you live in Alaska, I will mail you this. You're going to get it after Thursday night, but you're going to have it because it has a journaling page. It has tips in here. I mean, this thing, it's 64 pages. So it's chock full of stuff. But I'm going to wrap us up, Lou, because I have a 12:15. Whoops. Yep. Yes, I do. It is 12:15. I have a client call right now. Someone who's struggling with the holidays, actually. So please keep in touch. Everybody share this video. Lou, you can share it to some people too, maybe for me.
Yep. And we'll see it next week. See you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week. We'll talk about New Year's Eve and we'll talk about Christmas some more.
All right.
All right. Take care. Be well, everybody.